12 -2 conference has a problem. What to do with December?
They do have a problem, and it's really up in the air. Is it going to be a championship game, or are we going to have some rivalry games in December? From the Opopco Studios in Oklahoma City, this is The Presser. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Mike Sherman. Mike, I think the big question is the Big 12 -2 going to get an exemption to play a championship game? Is that a for sure at this point?
I can't think that it's going to be a for sure, Jenny, and here's why. The Big Ten, the Pac-10 have gone all these years without a conference championship game. They haven't been able to get that money. Some of them didn't want it. Some of them did and wanted to pay that they could all split amongst themselves. So they've waited. Now along comes the Big 12 -2, and all of a sudden they say, hey, we're applying for an exemption. The people who didn't let those other two conferences think about it are going to be some of the same people making this decision. Maybe the money's irresistible, maybe not. Maybe the Big 12 -2 doesn't want to play that championship game, but nevertheless, they got this December problem. You can't go a month and a half with no inventory, as they're calling it now, which I call good TV games. What are they going to do?
Well, I think they've got to move some of those rivalry games to December. The biggest rivalry game, obviously, is Oklahoma-Texas. And that would be great to put in a December slot, much like we've seen the Pac-10 do with its marquee games without that championship game in the conference. But if you move OU Texas to December, you take it out of the Texas State Fair. And if you take it out of the Texas State Fair, you might as well take it out of the Cotton Bowl and just go to Jerry World. And at this point, we haven't seen that these two schools want to do that. And we know, and this conference realignment has reiterated to us that Texas is in the driver's seat for what happens in this conference. So if Texas has been behind keeping the game at the Cotton Bowl and at the State Fair, I'm not sure this is a game that moves to December. I think it could be a hard sell to get that game out of October.
A hard sell, and one they can't even start talking about till 2014 or 2015. It's locked in at Dallas. After that, who knows? Who knows if these two teams are still in the same conference? Who knows if it's not 4 mega conferences by then? OU might be in the ACC, for crying out loud. But here's the deal. The December problem is real. I think the most likely solution is Bedlam in December. Yeah. Moving it off the Saturday after Thanksgiving, moving that and some other games, Kansas State, those kinds of games into December, giving you a premier platform to compete with the SEC championship.
Yeah, I think you have to move some of those traditional rivalries. Maybe OU Texas is not among that, but you have to put Texas A&M, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and obviously that doesn't include all 10 teams, but those are the games that you could then potentially market to TV, which really that's what this is all about. Trying to get that exemption for this conference championship game is really about trying to get those TV dollars for that championship game. I don't know if it's a slam dunk. I know that they're gonna push hard, and I'm sure Texas and Oklahoma will be at the front of that push, and they do carry a lot of weight. But it will be up in the air if they can get this thing. If they can't, they're really going to have to think about how to keep the Big 12 relevant at a time when everybody else is looking at conference championship games. And I got to tell you though, the fact that Oklahoma Texas might have to stay in October because of those contractual agreements with the Cotton Bowl, for those two teams might not be a bad thing. If you're playing for a national championship, you want to get away from a potential loss, and somebody's going to lose that game. So you put it a little bit earlier in the season. These teams can then distance themselves, whichever one loses, distance themselves. By the end of the year, maybe they're back up in the rankings. We'll have to see how this all shakes out. Hey, stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.